If you wish to be a writer, write. Epictetus. If you wish to understand women, listen, but truly listen. Not just to what they say, but to what they mean. The Stoics, masters of human behavior, knew that words are often veils. People, especially women, say one thing and mean another, not out of malice, but because communication is layered, emotional, and often instinctual. This video will decode 7 phrases women say that men constantly misunderstand, phrases that reveal far more than they appear to. If you want to stop being confused, stop misreading her cues, and start seeing reality with Stoic clarity, then stay till the very end. Like, subscribe, comment, and share your story, because somewhere another man is going through the same fog. Chapter 1. I'm not really looking for a relationship right now. This is one of the oldest lines in the book, and perhaps one of the most misunderstood. A woman says she's not looking for a relationship, and the average man hears it as a neutral, circumstantial statement. He thinks, maybe she's healing. Maybe she's busy. Maybe it's just bad timing. But here's the Stoic truth: if she truly wanted you, the conditions wouldn't matter. She would find a way through them, because emotional desire always trumps logistics. When a woman says this, it almost always means, with you. She's not looking for a relationship with you. That's the part most men miss. This phrase isn't some philosophical declaration about her current life stage. It's a shield. A polite lie wrapped in diplomacy. Not because she's cruel, but because direct honesty often creates discomfort, especially when dealing with fragile male egos. Outright rejection feels harsh. So instead, she offers a softer curtain to retreat behind. It's not you, it's where I'm at. The Stoic man doesn't crumble under this. He doesn't spiral into overthinking or cling to threads of hope. He understands that clarity is a form of self-respect. He hears the words, recognizes the subtext, and chooses dignity over desperation. He doesn't chase ghosts or try to decode mixed signals. He simply accepts that desire cannot be negotiated. A woman who is genuinely interested will not leave you guessing. She won't keep you at arm's length while claiming her heart's just not ready. She will make room for you, even in chaos. Attraction doesn't need perfect timing, it needs spark, tension, magnetism. If those aren't there, no amount of patience or persuasion will summon them. And that's not your failure, it's just emotional mismatch. A Stoic hears this line and remains unshaken, not because he's numb, but because he doesn't need emotional illusions to feel valuable. He lives in truth, not fantasy. He doesn't spin hopeful narratives about someday. He doesn't feed on crumbs. Instead, he treats this moment as a test of his detachment, his composure, his clarity. Don't take it personally. But also, don't let it slide into denial. Too many men romanticize their own suffering by waiting for a woman who's already made up her mind. They hold on to scraps of connection, hoping the narrative will flip. But hope, when tied to illusion, is not love, it's self-betrayal. Ask yourself honestly, has she ever used this line with a man she was crazy about? Probably not. Because when a woman is drawn to someone, she breaks her own rules. She rearranges her priorities. She says yes even when the timing is wrong. A woman in love will clear her schedule, bend her boundaries, and challenge her own narratives. She'll override the so-called reasons she gives everyone else. She'll find a way. So when she tells you she's not ready, believe her, not because her words are sacred, but because her lack of urgency and investment speaks louder. Indifference is never an accident. And this is where Stoicism becomes your edge. You don't plead. You don't project. You don't drown in what ifs. You step back, not with bitterness, but with poise. You walk away, not to make her chase you, but because your self-worth doesn't require convincing anyone. You don't view rejection as an attack. You see it as redirection. Her silence is closure. Her hesitation is your answer. In the Stoic path, clarity always trumps fantasy. Real strength lies not in forcing someone to choose you, but in choosing yourself when they won't. Peace begins the moment you stop justifying someone else's indifference and start honoring your own standard. Chapter 2, I'm fine. If you've ever heard these two words and breathed a sigh of relief, you're either incredibly lucky or dangerously naive. When a woman says I'm fine, 9 times out of 10, she's not. It's one of the most deceptively calm phrases in emotional communication, often hiding a storm behind it. This is not about lying. It's about testing, coping, or avoiding vulnerability. Sometimes, I'm fine is a wall. A defensive layer she puts up when she's overwhelmed, hurt, or disappointed, but doesn't want to seem dramatic or needy. Other times, it's a passive-aggressive attempt to make you ask more, to notice something's off without her having to beg for attention or spell it out. It's a silent invitation to see whether you're truly paying attention. The Stoic hears I'm fine and doesn't immediately rush to comfort or retreat into silence. He doesn't panic. He doesn't placate. He pauses. He observes. He reads the situation, the tone, the eyes, the posture, the gap between what's said and what's felt. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In this case, the outside event is her emotional state, something unpredictable and often layered. You're not responsible for fixing it. You're not her therapist or her emotional janitor. But you are responsible for how you respond. And a man grounded in Stoicism responds with calm awareness, not codependency or avoidance. That means gently probing, not pushing. That means staying available, not overstepping. It means asking, "Are you sure?" not 10 times, but once, with presence. And being able to hear the silence behind the words. It's about holding space, without absorbing the chaos, without mirroring her mood, without making it about you. Too many men swing to extremes. They either fall over themselves trying to fix an invisible wound, or they shrug and walk away, pretending she said what she meant. Both approaches miss the mark. The Stoic stays in the middle, centered, watchful, and unshaken. If you ask again, and she still insists she's fine, then respect that. Let her have her space. But don't emotionally clock out. Check in later. Stay consistent. Because emotional storms don't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they flicker in the tone of her voice or the absence of her usual warmth. And only the man who's trained his mind to be still, who listens with his eyes as much as his ears, can hear what others miss. That's the difference between reacting and responding. Between guessing and truly knowing her. Chapter 3, We Need to Talk. This sentence has ended more relationships than cheating. It's not the words themselves, it's the thundercloud behind them. When a woman says, "We need to talk," the tone is rarely casual. It usually means one thing: she's already been talking in her own mind for days, maybe weeks, and now she's ready to bring the storm to you. It might be a confrontation. It might be a carefully stored archive of grievances. It might even be a polite way of signaling that she's halfway out the door. But rarely, if ever, is this phrase used when something good is coming. No woman uses "we need to talk" to announce a vacation or a surprise party. It's a prelude to emotional exposure, and if you're not paying attention, it can feel like being blindsided. The Stoic man does not dread this phrase, but he doesn't roll his eyes at it either. He understands its weight. He respects its timing. And most importantly, he doesn't get defensive before the conversation even starts. If you hear we need to talk, it's time to brace, not by armoring up emotionally or preparing counter-arguments, but by grounding yourself mentally. Prepare for truth. Prepare for discomfort. Prepare for the possibility that she's been carrying something heavy, quietly, while you've been oblivious. Do not interrupt. Do not jump to conclusions. And do not try to fix it before she's finished speaking. That urge to fix is not strength, it's fear in disguise. Most women use this phrase when they feel like they've been silenced or dismissed for too long. When the emotional debt has compounded and she no longer feels seen. When she's tried to hint, tried to signal, tried to be subtle, and none of it worked. Now, she's resorting to what feels like a last stand. We need to talk is rarely the start of an issue. It's the culmination of one. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." But make no mistake, this moment is real. This is not paranoia. This is not projection. It is the crossroad of truth. Handle it like the Stoics would, without flinching. A weak man panics. He hears that phrase and already assumes the worst, because he's never built a foundation of emotional resilience. A defensive man fights, he cuts her off, challenges her, makes her feel like a prosecutor instead of a partner. But a Stoic man? He listens like a mirror. Calm. Present. Reflecting, not reacting. He understands that most problems don't need instant answers. They need witnessing. Being seen. Being held. She might cry. She might be angry. She might throw words like daggers, and maybe some of them will land. Maybe some of them will expose your blind spots. Don't deny them. Don't flee from them. Absorb what's true, discard what's not. Let your ego bleed if it has to. Because real strength isn't how hard you punch, it's how still you stand when emotion tries to shake you. After she's finished, after the wave has crashed, that's when you speak. Not with excuses, not with manipulation, not with empty promises. Speak with reason. With truth. With emotional clarity. Because this isn't just a talk, it's a moment of judgment. Not by her, but by fate. This is where your masculinity is either tested and refined or exposed as fragile and fake. Most men lose women not because they cheat, or lie, or fail to provide, but because they can't handle her emotions when she needs them to. They dismiss. They blame. They explode. But the Stoic holds the line. He doesn't need to be perfect. He just needs to be present. Firm, fair, and grounded. And here's the secret, sometimes, when she says we need to talk, she doesn't even need a solution. She just needs to feel like you're capable of facing hard things with her. That when things get messy, you don't run. You don't crumble. You stay. Stoicism isn't about being cold, it's about being calm under fire. It's about being the emotional anchor when everything feels like it's drifting apart. So when you hear those 4 words, we need to talk, take a breath. Look her in the eyes. And welcome the moment. Because in truth, what she's really saying is, can you face me without fear? Can you hold this space without running? Can you love me even when it's hard? And if you can, you'll gain something far deeper than just resolution. You'll gain her respect, the kind that doesn't come easy and doesn't fade fast. Chapter 4, I don't care. The illusion of indifference. She says, I don't care, but somehow, everything after that statement screams the opposite. Whether you're picking a restaurant, deciding on weekend plans, or making a small everyday choice, those 3 words rarely mean what they appear to. In fact, they're often a soft signal wrapped in ambiguity. A test, a deflection, a quiet plea to see if you'll lead with awareness or stumble in oblivion. So why do women say it? Sometimes it's because they genuinely don't want to seem demanding. They want to be easygoing, flexible, agreeable. Other times, it's a way of stepping back, not out of apathy, but because they're tired of not being heard. And in some cases, I don't care is a smokescreen, masking a very real preference they're not ready to voice. Maybe they want you to take initiative. Maybe they want to see if you know them well enough to make the right call. Or maybe they're frustrated, and those words are their attempt to avoid yet another conversation that feels like a battle for space. But here's what matters: I don't care if almost never means she has no opinion. The Stoic man knows this. He doesn't take words purely at face value, nor does he turn every cryptic comment into a crisis. He listens, not just with his ears, but with his intuition. If she truly doesn't care, her body language will reflect that: open shoulders, calm breath, genuine lightness. But if she says it with a clipped tone, avoids eye contact, or offers it with forced attachment, you can be sure that care exists. It's just buried under layers of emotional complexity. This is where emotional intelligence separates men who get women from those who don't. The foolish man argues. He says, "Fine, you said you don't care," and makes a random decision, then acts confused when the mood shifts. The reactive man snaps back, "Well then don't get mad when I pick," as if winning the logic war earns him connection. But the Stoic? He reads between the lines. He knows this isn't about the decision itself, it's about whether he notices, whether he's paying attention, whether he sees her even when she's hiding behind apathy. One powerful response is to flip the frame: "Where do you not want to go?" or "Guess where I'm taking you tonight?" Those kinds of questions lower her defenses. They give her space to reveal what she really wants without making her feel exposed. Because often, it's not that she doesn't care, it's that she's afraid her desires will be dismissed or criticized, that her opinion might create friction. So she protects herself with the illusion of neutrality. But the Stoic doesn't need her to spell it out. He leads, not with arrogance, but with awareness. He doesn't force clarity from her. He creates it through action. Through confident choices informed by who she is and how she's feeling, not just what she's saying. That's the quiet strength of the Stoic. He acts decisively, but he listens deeply. Understand this: women don't always want to be the one deciding. Even strong, independent women get tired of steering all the time. Sometimes they want to surrender that responsibility, but only to someone they trust to handle it well. Someone who makes decisions not from selfishness, but from attentiveness. Not from laziness, but from insight. That's what "I don't care" is often really asking: can I trust you to lead in a way that still includes me? So don't fall into the trap of either over-questioning or blind decision-making. Instead, be surgical in your presence. Pay attention to tone, to tension, to her energy when she says those 3 words. Ask a clarifying question if needed, but more importantly, make your move with confidence. And if you get it wrong, own it. Laugh. Adjust. Because even that shows strength. Stoicism doesn't mean becoming a robot who ignores emotional nuance. It means staying calm while navigating it. It means understanding that what's said out loud is often just the surface, and real connection lives in the layers beneath. The Stoic doesn't fear these layers. He explores them with steadiness and skill. So next time you hear "I don't care," don't freeze. Don't react. And don't get sarcastic. Instead, recognize what's behind it. Maybe she's testing if you'll notice. Maybe she's protecting a soft spot. Or maybe just maybe, she wants to see if you'll choose her preferences without needing her to spell them out. And when you do, she'll feel seen without even knowing why. That's not just emotional awareness. That's power. Chapter 5. Have fun. Innocent words. But don't be fooled. Context is everything. Tone is everything. When a woman says have fun, you need to listen with your ears, your eyes, and your instincts. Because sometimes those two simple words carry more emotion than an entire paragraph. If she says it with warmth in her voice, a soft smile, and genuine eye contact, it's likely sincere. But if her tone is flat, her face is expressionless, or there's an eerie silence afterward, something else is happening beneath the surface. And as a Stoic, your strength lies in recognizing it without being controlled by it. Have fun can be an open door, a blessing, a gesture of mature trust. But it can also be a wall, a shield, a subtle protest in disguise. It can mean she wants you to go and enjoy yourself. Or it can mean she wants you to feel just a little guilty for leaving her behind. That emotional duality isn't necessarily manipulative, it's human. It's layered. It's a reflection of unspoken needs, attachment, and sometimes fear. The Stoic man doesn't overreact. He doesn't accuse her of playing games. But he also doesn't pretend it's all sunshine when the skies are clearly overcast. You might think she's fine with your weekend plans. But under the surface, she might be wondering why she wasn't invited. Or why your version of fun doesn't involve her. Or why it feels like you're escaping instead of simply socializing. She might feel excluded, replaced, or irrelevant, not because you said anything wrong, but because emotions don't always follow logic. And again, this doesn't mean she's toxic. It means she's alive, sensitive, sometimes insecure, sometimes uncertain of her place in your world. And it's in these small, seemingly forgettable exchanges where emotional awareness becomes everything. The average man misses the signal entirely. He hears and have fun, shrugs, and heads out the door. Then wonders why she's cold the next day. The insecure man, on the other hand, bends too far in the opposite direction, cancels his plans, over-apologizes, and sacrifices his freedom just to make her feel better. But the Stoic man? He walks a third path. He doesn't abandon his plans, and he doesn't ignore her feelings. He pays attention. He checks the energy. If something feels off, he addresses it, gently, directly. Maybe he asks, "Are you sure you're okay with this?" And if she insists she is, he respects that. But he also registers the temperature of the room. Because Stoicism is not naivety, it's clarity. And clarity means seeing things for what they are, not what we wish they were. This doesn't mean you become a detective analyzing every word she says. It means you develop emotional range. You understand that words don't always mean what they seem. That tone, timing, and subtext matter. And you learn to balance logic with intuition. Because what she may truly want is not for you to cancel your plans, but to know that she still matters even when she's not beside you. That your world doesn't forget her just because it's expanding. That her presence is valued even in her absence. That's where real maturity comes in. You don't react with guilt or defensiveness. You don't snap back with, "Why are you acting like this?" or "You said it was fine." Instead, you stay grounded, calm. You lead emotionally, not just verbally. If you sense pain behind her, have fun, you respond with strength, not silence. A gentle kiss on the forehead. A sincere "I'll text you when I get there." Not because you're being controlled, but because you understand the subtle power of reassurance. And you understand that being a strong man doesn't mean being emotionally numb, it means being emotionally attuned without becoming emotionally enslaved. There's a big difference between reacting and responding. The reactive man either dismisses her emotions or drowns in them. The Stoic responds with measured awareness. He doesn't change his course at every emotional breeze, but he also doesn't pretend the wind isn't blowing. He remains the mountain, not to prove a point, but to create safety. A woman doesn't always want to hear "I love you" when you leave. Sometimes she just wants to feel it. In how you look at her. In how you acknowledge her before walking out the door. In how you don't diminish her feelings, even when they show up in strange, coded ways. Because here's the truth, her fun isn't always about you having fun. Sometimes it's about her wondering where she stands in your joy. Wondering if she's being left behind emotionally. Wondering if your independence means detachment, or if there's still room for her in the story you're writing. These are vulnerable thoughts. And she may not say them out loud. But you, if you're truly present, will sense them anyway. So don't apologize for living your life. And don't explain yourself like you've done something wrong. Instead, live with strength and compassion at the same time. That's what makes a man not only stoic, but rare. Because in a world full of boys reacting to emotion with emotion, you become the one who leads with stillness. With certainty. With emotional fluency that doesn't need many words, but always speaks the right ones. So next time she says, "Have fun," pause. Not because you're doubting your plans, but because you care enough to be conscious. And if you hear something deeper in her voice, don't run from it. Lean in. A single moment of presence can erase hours of distance. And that's what the Stoic understands, words are just the surface. But meaning? That lives in the pauses, the glances, the tone, the space between her smile and her silence. And when you can read that without being consumed by it, you've mastered not just women, but yourself. Chapter 6, I'll be ready in 5 minutes. You already know she won't be. But this phrase isn't really about time, at least not in the way most men think of it. For the Stoic, this moment isn't about waiting, it's about understanding. It's about seeing what's actually happening beneath the surface and controlling not her pace, but your own reaction. When she says, "I'll be ready in 5 minutes," it's rarely a calculated lie, it's an emotional approximation. A hopeful estimate. And often, it's a subconscious request for grace, patience, and understanding. Most men hear this and immediately go into fight mode, checking their watch, pacing, sighing loudly, or even throwing out sarcastic jabs. They make it about themselves. Their time. Their schedule. Their frustration. But in doing so, they fail the real test, not of punctuality, but of presence. Because what's actually playing out isn't a war against time, it's a dance with pressure. A woman getting ready is a woman stepping into armor. She's making dozens of micro-decisions, what to wear, how to do her makeup, whether she feels beautiful enough, confident enough, feminine enough. She's editing herself in real time, not out of vanity, but because she wants to show up for you in the most radiant way she knows how. And that's the part most men miss. When she takes longer, it's rarely because she doesn't care, it's because she does. She's trying to look good for you, feel good around you, and represent the best version of herself next to you. That pressure? It can be immense. And the way you respond in those moments tells her everything about the kind of man you are. A weak man will complain. An impatient man will make it all about his inconvenience. A boy will stomp his feet like he's late to recess. But a stoic man? He doesn't just wait, he uses the time. He slows his breath. He takes control of his body language. He centers himself. Maybe he stretches his back, rolls his shoulders, checks in with his emotions. Maybe he leans into silence and watches the thoughts that rise when he feels ignored. He understands that these moments, these tiny, inconvenient gaps, are perfect training grounds for discipline and mastery. Because here's the deeper truth: if 5 minutes can shake you, the world will break you. If you lose composure over lipstick and heels, what will happen when life throws real storms your way? This is where Stoicism reveals its true value, not as an abstract philosophy, but as a practical weapon. You can't control her tempo, but you can master your own. And if you can do that consistently, you become something rare, a man whose peace is not dictated by circumstance. And women feel that. More than your words, more than your schedule, more than your annoyance. She feels the calm, the unshakable presence, the solid masculine stillness that doesn't flinch at delay, doesn't bark for attention, and doesn't take her timing as a personal attack. You're not her father. You're not her boss. You're not there to correct her clock, you're there to lead yourself. And yet, this doesn't mean becoming passive. A Stoic man doesn't let others walk all over him. He simply chooses his battles with wisdom. If lateness becomes a pattern of disrespect, he addresses it not with aggression, but with clarity and strength. But one late departure? One extra 10 minutes while she fixes her hair? That's not war. That's noise. And the man who reacts to noise loses his power every time. The beauty of these moments is in their subtlety. She will remember not just that you waited, but how you waited. Did you sulk and scroll through your phone with an annoyed expression? Or did you sit still, relaxed, composed, almost regal? Were you tapping your foot like a child, or were you adjusting your cuffs like a man preparing for battle? These things speak louder than any words you could say. They show her who you really are when no one's watching, or when someone's watching very closely. That's the secret few men understand. Women don't just test you with big arguments or emotional explosions. Sometimes they test you with silence, with slowness, with unpredictability. They don't even mean to, it's simply part of their nature. And your response to those small, everyday disruptions tells her more than your most well-crafted speech ever will. So next time she says, "I'll be ready in 5 minutes," don't laugh. Don't sigh. Don't roll your eyes. Just nod. Take a breath. Stand tall. And know this: your reaction is your resume. Your presence is your power. And how you carry yourself in moments of stillness determines the gravity you bring into every room. This is what it means to be stoic, not emotionless, but unbreakable. Not rigid, but solid. Not impatient, but prepared. Life, like women, doesn't always run on your time. But the man who masters his response becomes the one who controls the tempo of every interaction, not by force, but by presence alone. So you wait. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Because you know that real strength doesn't need to shout or rush, it only needs to be still. Chapter 7. It's not you, it's me. This one is almost mythical at this point. It's not you, it's me. A phrase so familiar, so overused, that most men instinctively roll their eyes when they hear it. And yet, buried in this tired sentence is one of the most emotionally strategic lines a woman can use when she's ready to exit a connection without igniting conflict. On the surface, it sounds noble, self-blaming, kind, even. But what it often conceals is a brutal truth. Something about this relationship no longer feels right for her. Let's dissect it the Stoic way. Is it really her? Maybe. There are cases where a woman is genuinely dealing with internal struggles, mental health, grief, burnout, unresolved trauma. and she doesn't feel capable of giving or receiving love. In those rare moments, this sentence is authentic. It's vulnerable, and it deserves your respect. But more often than not, it's something else entirely. It's an emotional parachute, a diplomatic shield, a way for her to say, "I've emotionally checked out," without making you feel like a failure. It's not meant to be dissected logically, it's meant to soften the blow. But here's where the Stoic man separates himself from the average one. The untrained mind hears "it's not you, it's me," and spirals into a desperate quest for answers. What did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Something I didn't say? Should I text her? Should I change? Should I prove her wrong? But the Stoic mind hears the same phrase and pauses. He accepts the ambiguity. He resists the urge to fill in the gaps. Because he knows that clinging to an answer does not bring peace, it feeds the illusion of control. What she's really doing here is preserving your ego while protecting her exit. Maybe she no longer feels the spark. Maybe she senses neediness, insecurity, or emotional immaturity. Maybe she met someone else who excites her in a way you don't anymore. Or maybe, just maybe, she simply woke up one day and realized her feelings had faded, and she didn't know how to explain it without causing damage. Regardless of the reason, she chose to mask the real message with a phrase that sounds gentle, but ultimately means, "This isn't working for me anymore." And that's where your strength as a man is tested. Not in what you say to her, but in what you don't say. Do you resist the pull to negotiate, to fix, to beg? Or do you stand still, breathe, and reply with something that most men can't summon, "I understand"? Not because you truly understand the hidden reason, but because you accept that you might never get it. And that's okay. Stoicism teaches us that we are only responsible for our intentions, our character, and our actions, not other people's choices. A woman walking away, even under vague pretenses, is not your downfall, it's just another chapter closing. Another moment asking you to hold fast to your center. To let go of attachment. To release the illusion that love can be sustained by effort alone. Because sometimes, it's not about doing something wrong, it's about the fact that emotions change, people change, and nothing, absolutely nothing, is owed to us just because we gave our time and heart. But here's the hidden gift. When a woman says, "It's not you, it's me," and you respond with calm acceptance, without anger, without guilt-tripping, without collapsing, you do something rare. You show her the one thing she might have been missing all along, masculine emotional maturity. And even if she doesn't come back, even if she never explains, you walk away with something more valuable than her validation. You walk away with self-respect. Because you didn't break. You didn't cling. You didn't demand closure like a child denied his toy. You stood as a man. Steady. Grounded. And aware that your value never depended on her explanation in the first place. Detached from the need to always be chosen. Detached from the fantasy that every love must last. And most of all, detached from the words people say when they're afraid of telling the full truth. Words are often masks. But you, if you train your mind, can see the face underneath. And then let it go. That is the ultimate Stoic power. Not being unaffected, but being unshaken. And there you have it, 7 things women say that carry a much deeper meaning than the words alone. A Stoic doesn't just hear, he listens. He reads between the lines. He understands that words are merely symbols pointing to a deeper emotional reality, and to truly master relationships, a man must remain calm, observant, and emotionally intelligent. The moment you stop reacting and start perceiving, that's when everything changes. Women often communicate indirectly, not because they're trying to deceive, but because emotion shapes their language. And as a man rooted in Stoicism, your strength comes not from control, but from understanding. From staying centered, unmoved, but fully aware. So next time she says, "I'm fine," you'll know what to look for. When she says to have fun, you'll hear the tone. When she says we need to talk, you'll face it with courage, not fear. That's the Stoic edge: clear mind, steady heart, and the power to see through the noise. If you made it this far, you're already ahead of 99% of men. But don't keep this knowledge to yourself. Like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs it. Drop your own stories in the comments. When did you realize what she really meant? And of course, if you want to keep building the mindset of a modern Stoic man, subscribe. This is only the beginning. Stay sharp. Stay grounded. And remember, the words don't lie. But they rarely tell the whole truth.